this is Abina at Cross Keys Crafts. Today with the Visible Image Artist Trading Card Swap for September 2023, and the topic this month is Rusty. When I saw the theme, I had the immediate idea to use some metallics, anything sort of copper coloured, and I had a thought. At first I thought I'd just use my copper embossing powder, which I will. But then I watched a video by, I think it was Christine Stokes, and she used eyeshadows. So I thought that's a great idea for me to use up eyeshadows, especially the metallic one here that I don't use on my eyes. So I've got this one here. I might use a bit of these here, although only this one's metallic, this one's matte, and I'm not quite sure I want the look of that. I've also got on my craft table a mica powder. That's just a brown red. I thought that would not go nicely maybe with a theme. And I have got some gilding flakes, but I'm not sure yet whether I will use these because I think they might be a bit too shiny. I also have here some ink. I really like the look of of copper and teal. And I already had a little swatch here, and I think the Elements Mermaid is the nicest teal to go with anything copper coloured. I already had a little play here with the eyeshadows. And then as far as stamps are concerned, I have got the robin set here. I picked anything sort of autumn themed. Obviously this is a Christmas robin, but it's got the leaves there, so, and some berries here, so I might use that. I've got the coordinating dies, which is useful because I think I will just create a background. I have already outlined this, and I've already outlined a 5x7 piece that I will use for the back, and I've already got some stains on it as well. Never mind. So, and I've got the hedgehogs here. This is the hedgehogs, and again I've got the coordinating dies. They've got the pile of leaves here, and then the little ones here. And I've got the squirrel, so I might be using the squirrel silhouettes because I haven't used these yet, but the acorns are really nice as well. But as I said, first I want to put down a background, and now my thought was to have it really grungy, so basically just pattern, no sort of rhyme or reason to it. So I thought I'd go in with my ink first with my teal and just my blending brush, and I thought I'd just put down some streaks of the teal and really just randomly maybe going from the other side. I would like a bit more coverage, but I don't want it to be too perfect. Maybe I should go a little bit across as well. Maybe tap a bit on. I'm just playing along here. As if you know me, you know I sometimes don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going for it, and I always encourage you to do the same. Just have a play, have fun, experiment, and if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, or you don't really like it at all in the end, just put it in the bin. So I'm doing the same here off camera now on this part here. I don't want to bore you with that, and then I come back and we start applying the metallic inks. So I got a little bit lazy and I just used the ink pad and just wiped it on here, and because it's oval it's got this shape, but again I think it doesn't matter for what it's going to be because it's just the background. So to apply eyeshadow, all you need is a brush. I'm just contemplating whether I need a wider one, ideally a soft one that allows you to pick up the colour properly, and you need some tacky glue. So I've tried it with Versamark. It worked a little bit, but I want to be on the safe side and use some proper tacky glue. So I'm using the two-way zig glue. Unfortunately, my bigger one had dried out, so I'm just using the medium one. You can use other liquid tacky glue. I had, just think of the brand I had, can't remember now, but anything is fine because that will just help you to adhere it. So again, like before, go down in streaks. And I know this is not very damp anymore. Might have to swap my glue in a moment. The other thing is this glue is blue and turns clear, but because I'm using it over the ink here, and that's something to keep in mind, that your nib will get dirty. So I'm just brushing it on now, and wherever I had the glue it will adhere, and I already like the look of that. And wherever, you can see it now, wherever I've got no glue it won't stay. Now trying to remember where I put some glue. Put glue there, I did. So I want a bit more. I never use this for anything else, so I'm not bothered about it getting dirty or contaminated with the ink. So you get the idea. I will continue with this now off camera. I will also in the same way apply the brown red mica powder. I will put a bit on the side and then I can pick it up from there, and then I come back. As my glue pen was drying out a little bit, I just had a look around my stash what I've got, and I found this transfer gel dewer, and it actually said on the top, dries clear, stays tacky. So I used that for the bigger part there, and I think you can just about see it. And I haven't applied the eyeshadow yet because this needs to dry first a little bit for an hour. So I just used a wider brush and applied it in various directions. So for this side, for the ATC, I decided I want to have a bit more of the teal in the background now, because there are still some white bits left. But I'm a bit conscious of the eyeshadow I've got on there, so I don't want to go on there with my brush and then go back onto the ink pad. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some of the ink on a little tile here. So this is all I need to use. And I'm also using some water. Let me just find my water. It was on the table, I couldn't see it. So I'm just adding a little bit of water just to water it down. That will make it easier to apply. So I'm going back with my stencil brush. Any brush would work. And I can just go back in without contaminating my iPad. Ink pad, not iPad. A bit more of a saturated look as well than it did before. So, but it doesn't take away from the shine of the eyeshadow. That's all properly adhered now. You can see it does come off a little bit. I'm contemplating once I've finished whether I need to put a coat of clear embossing powder on it. But I'll see, I'll leave it to set first. So I really like the look of that. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is going to design the parts that will go on top. I had thought about stamping directly on the background. I think I will do that as well. So let me just have a quick think. I'll switch off the camera and then I'll be back. I have decided to give that a coat of clear embossing powder and not to stamp on this, because I've got the luxury of having the dies to go with the stamps. I might just as well adhere everything on top. So I don't want to go directly with my Versamark onto this, because again that will contaminate my ink pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a brayer to apply the ink over this, and then I can cover it with my clear embossing powder. So I'm just going to show you that quickly. I know some crafters that have got a separate ink pad for these techniques, but I don't, and it's so much more easy. Sorry, it's easier to clean my brayer than it is there. So I think I've covered it. I know I mustn't make the mistake of going back there now, so I just need to use what I've got left here. It's easily done. I think it's all covered. If not, it doesn't matter, because with visible image the great thing is you have got this grungy look, and I really like playing with that. So try not to make a mess. Yeah, that's nicely covered there. So I'm just going to heat set this off camera, and then I'm going to cut it to size as well, because it obviously is a bit bigger than the actual ATC. I have heat embossed this now, and although it's a bit speckled, I think it's the way I applied it with a brayer. I think this is really cool, and obviously the eyeshadow is sealed in really nicely, so I'm pleased with that. I just wanted to show you this. So I did the same thing. I applied the, well, you've seen the tacky glue, and I've applied the eyeshadow, and I have just gone over this with my spray bottle just to leave a few splats, because these are bigger areas of green, and I thought I just wanted to give it a bit of interest. So I'm leaving this to bleach this a bit. I will blot it with my kitchen towel a little bit. You can see it's already reacting there, so just to do a bit, get a bit more of interest. And then I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to cover this with my clear embossing powder just to seal this in, and then we start with the stamps. When I wanted to cover my bigger panel, I realised I had just already washed my brayer, and I'm a bit lazy. So I had a quick think what I can do to apply anything sticky. And I remembered I've got this stick and spray, which is, you bought this for stencils because you can basically reposition the stencil then. Just make sure if you use a spray like that, you ventilate your room, you've got your window open. But that was really easy. I just applied it all over. I do this above my bin. And then, yeah, I could apply the embossing powder like normal. And what you've just seen here now, after I heat embossed it, made sure it was dry, I flattened it a bit underneath my stamping platform between some sheets. So this is covered as well now. And as I said, I really like the look of this sort of speckled embossing powder. Maybe it is because my embossing powder is getting a bit old. I don't know. The bit I missed out, but it doesn't matter because that's just got the teal ink underneath and not the eyeshadow. So yeah, really cool, I think. So as I said, now we start with the stamping. So let me move this out of the way. So I will start stamping all the, oops, sorry about that, I just knocked the glue over there. So I want to start stamping all the ones that I have got the dies for, and maybe also stamp these. I thought I had dies for that, but I don't think they have been released yet. I'll have to have a look. So I want to stamp these and emboss in my copper embossing powder. That was sort of the overall idea I had to start with. And I might colour them again with the eyeshadows, or I'll have a think. I've got some new pens as well that I could use. And I will also have one feature animal. I might go for the hedgehog here. I know that fits really nicely onto the ATC, but I might just have that one here. That's really cute as well. So let me get my supplies ready and I'll show you what we're doing. For my images, I have decided to use the hedgehogs and some of the robins. Basically all the pieces that I have got dies for, except for the big birds. I don't need them all. I'm not using the squirrel set at the moment because I can't find my dies. I even have to Google whether I've actually ordered them, but I'm sure I own them. I'll have to have a look. So I'm not using that one today. So I've already laid them out on my stamping platform. I'm going to stamp 2 lots of these even if I've got some spare pieces afterwards, is just handy to have. So, and because these are the thick stamps, I don't mind using my Tim Holtz stamping platform. For anything else at the moment, I prefer the Crafter's Companion one. So just need to realign this. So just trying to get this all in the camera shot. So I'm just using my Versamark again to ink these all up. And I have laid them out, leaving space around them to die cut them afterwards. And as you can see, I've chosen brown cardstock because that will save me a step of having to ink them all up. Just get my pressure tool. Sorry if my camera wobbles. I tried a different setup, attaching my camera to something else, but it didn't work. So the hedgehogs haven't stamped at all. The problem is that this moved, so I might mess it up now. We'll see. If you ever have the problem, just do it all over again. It's just paper that's going in the bin. You're not really wasting anything. So, a bit more pressure here. That's better, but they are double stamped. So I will just use these images that seem to be okay, quickly emboss these. So I'm cutting the others off first before I apply the embossing powder, and then I will just stamp it again off camera just to keep this video short. Before I heat set my bits now, I've covered them with a copper embossing powder. Just a little word on stamping. As you could see, I had problems there. So first of all, I saw on all the three pieces that the sentiment is actually bleeding a little bit. That is down to the cardstock. That's got nothing to do with the stamp or the ink. I'll see what it looks like when it has stamped, whether I can still use it. Also, for the second lot, I put a piece of cardstock underneath, which will give me a bit more pressure, so that might something that may help you with. So also, my embossing powder is not a super fine one, I believe. So if you've got smaller details like a sentiment, you might want to use fine embossing powder rather than the normal one. So that's a few things to keep in mind when you're heat embossing. So I will heat set these now, again off camera. This looks really, really dark now, but when it heat sets, it'll be nice copper and it will show. And then I'll have a think whether I need to enhance any bits with colour. I haven't decided on that yet. I have heat set my stamps now, my images, and this is really, really nice. So one thing I need to take back, rather than deleting it or editing my footage before, I'm a silly Billy. This, what I thought was bleeding, is actually part of the stamp. It's supposed to look like that. So everything was fine there. The only thing I have is a bit of double stamping on these, the first lot. So I will dismiss these. I might use the sentiment, that's fine. But the bird's definitely double stamped. But I've got enough images here. So what I decided to do is, I only want to colour in the robin a little bit with my brown red mica again. So as before, I will apply my zig glue on the chest here and will apply that. The rest, I thought I will just ink up a little bit with my blending brush and the truffle, just to give it a bit of dimension. So all I'm doing is inking my brush up and then just going in a bit along the edges. And my idea is then when I die cut them, and I will go over that with a cloth afterwards or with a tissue, that I will have a bit of colour, as I said, or shade to it. I don't know if you can see the difference there. just a little bit that makes the cardstock behind it a bit darker. If you want a higher contrast, you can use a different ink like black soot or so, but for me that's enough. Here I'm only going in half of the leaf, and I think that'll be just fine. So after I've done that, I'm going to die cut all these pieces, and then I will just figure out how to lay them out on my ATC and my main card. I've got two little tips for the die cutting. That's what I'm popping in now. First of all, I always put my removable tape, and I'm using this Scotch removable. I always put that on the outside of the dies, because even if you've got low-tack tape, through the die cutting machine you've got a lot of pressure, and I found in the past that although this is removable, and even other tapes, washi tapes or whatever, they can stick to the motif, and I don't want that, so I'm keeping this on the outside. And the other thing, the other advantage this brings me is, once I've die cut this piece, because I stamped these in the same place, I can keep the top sheet with the holes in, obviously all these pop out, and I can just align this on top of this piece and just use this as a template, and I don't need to realign all the dies. By the way, these have got some sticky residue on them, the hedgehog ones from the packaging. With the new stamps, the Robin ones, Visible Image probably have heard, or their customers, or have realised themselves, these come just in a little bag, they're not stuck down, so that will help. I don't mind too much because I'm keeping mine on little magnet sheets now, so I haven't used these. This is why they're still in this state, and I will clean the sticky bits up afterwards with alcohol, spirit alcohol, just to remove the stickiness. But yeah, I just wanted to pop in to let you know about these two tips. I have glued most of my elements down. I was getting a bit conscious that my stomach's rumbling, I need breakfast, so I did this off camera. I just wanted to show you a few bits. I like pieces that are overhanging a little bit, and I just cut these off. So once they're dry, you can just turn this over and use your scissors and just cut along the edge of the card, and then these are really easy to get off. Same here, let's turn it round, cut off there. So I'm going to continue those in a moment. So the other thing I just wanted to show you, if you haven't seen me do that, the hedgehogs here, I just tore this along my metal ruler. So all you need to do is you need to align your sentiment with a ruler. I always line it up like this and just move it over. And then the bit you want to tear off, not the sentiment, you have that exposed, and then you just tear along the edge. And then you've got a fairly neat but rough edge. I think that's really useful to know. And the thinner the cardstock, the easier it is to do that. So the only thing that's left for me to do is to put some eyes on these. I could either use, I've got some mini black beads, but I think for this purpose here, I'm just going to use my Dovecraft 3D Pearl Effects. This is cheap stuff. I think that's from Poundland. So I'm just making sure on a piece of scrap that it's flowing nicely. There's no air bubbles in that. I just pop a little spot there. Make sure the other one's the same size. And then what you need to do is you need to flick underneath to flatten this. So I'm just using my ruler. You can also use your fingers. And then just tap it like this. No, finger's actually better. Can you see the difference there? So they're not quite the same size. It's always a bit tricky. I'm just adding a bit more here whilst it's still damp. And again, flicking this. That's better. There you go. So I'm leaving this to dry now, and I'm doing the same with all the animals on this one here. And then I'm going to glue this down onto my craft card base. I think the craft card base goes well with this theme. And that's all there is to it. So if you like this ATC and the accompanying card, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, I post videos twice a week at least. You might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.